What is going on, everyone? My name is Andy. Welcome back to another FPL video. And we're only a couple of days from the season starting, so we are back to the normal in-season content from here on out. Starting with team selection for Game Week 30 plus. Now, I'm still not a fan of the plus, but it is what it is. That's what it's called. It's Game Week 30 plus. I have used my free hit, so I'm going to show you what the team is currently looking like. It's pretty much finalised. There's only a couple of players I'm still a little bit undecided about, and I'll talk you through why I'm kind of undecided and who I'm thinking about maybe getting instead. Defenders, midfielders, forwards, it's all on. Let's get into it. So we start off with defenders and goalkeepers. The squad value within the bank doesn't hugely matter. I've taken that from the My Team page, but I am on free transfers because it's free hit. So unlimited transfers for me, but obviously I'll get my normal team back in Game Week 31 plus. So looking at it, the squad structure and the players I've kind of chosen are pretty much nailed on. Like, I'm not 100% saying it'll be Stevens and Egan in Sheffield United defence. I'll talk about that in a bit more in a minute and why it might change. But pretty much this is the structure and the players that I'm going to have. So Matt Doherty kind of takes a single game week spot. I've tried putting together loads of different drafts, and I can't really get 11 double game week players that I'm absolutely happy with, where there's not a fear of rotation or a fear that they're just absolutely rubbish. So in this slot currently, I've got Matt Doherty. Now, let's talk about who that could change to and why he might be a good pick. So West Ham's a great fixture, I think. They've done really poorly this year. Whether or not the break will help them, we're obviously yet to see. And Wolves have been in really good form, and so was Matt Doherty before the season ended. He was kind of on fire, actually. A lot of people were getting him in as a big differential. So I really think he's a good option this week. The one thing I should say is in the team I've built for this video and the team that I'm really looking forward to using hopefully on Wednesday. I don't think like I said, don't think there's going to be too many changes. I actually have the money to upgrade Doherty to Trent Alexander-Arnold. So I could just do that. I mean, he is the best defender in FPL. It's Everton away, which usually I think would be a tricky fixture. But because, I know a lot of people have said this now, because the crowd's not there, is that not, that you think that would be kind of detrimental to Everton, not having that crowd to kind of build them up in that Liverpool Merseyside derby? It might actually be a bit easier for Liverpool to go to the ground without the crowd and just perform as normal. So that does worry me a bit. And if I've got the money to upgrade, I may put Trent in there. The only other player that I'm considering really is an Arsenal defender to double up with Leno. The problem is I'm fully expecting Man City to score. So it's really just a case of hoping for something against Brighton and maybe an attacking return, so like a Tierney or a Bellerin, but we've hardly seen them this year. They have started both the friendlies behind closed doors, but is that enough? I don't know if I can talk myself into it. It is something a bit different, and you basically would get Brighton versus kind of West Ham instead of Doherty, or Brighton versus Everton, which is what Trent would have, plus the Man City game to maybe get something. But double Arsenal defence probably isn't the wisest choice. So right now I've got Doherty in there. In goal I've got Leno for a few reasons. One, I've got triple Man City elsewhere, so I can't get Edison. I've got triple Sheffield United elsewhere, so I can't get Henderson. And who wants an Aston Villa defender if they can absolutely help it? So Reina is not in there either. So I just default to the only other goalkeeper I can get, which is Leno. Like I said, it's going to be a struggle for them to get anything against Man City, but hopefully they can get a clean sheet against Brighton. And yes, there's some goalkeepers with good single game week fixtures, but the ceiling is so kind of low on most goalkeepers. I just would always back the double game week, so it has to be Leno. And then defence-wise, for Sheffield United, I've spoken about Lundstram a lot. I had him on Avoid and I had him on Mustone. Like, it wasn't really him, it was more Sheffield United defender. If he's going to start in that first game, and we find out he's going to start, I'm going to put him in, I think, because I'm on free hit, so it doesn't matter if he misses out and hasn't really got his place back, because I won't have him in my Game Week 31 side anyway. I do think there's a chance he starts one game and maybe doesn't start the other one because of Sanderberg being there, the games being fairly close together, at least the two opening games, which could be a little bit of a worry. But at the same time, he has started pre-season, he has scored 2 goals, maybe he's showing the manager what he can do, maybe he needed that little bit of a break, I don't know. All I do know is if he does play, he can really hurt you when you don't own him. So if he plays, I'll probably put him in ahead of Egan. If not, these will be the two I go for. I think Stevens is the best all-rounder. I know he's got a little bit of competition, but he's pretty much nailed on, has been all season. So creates chances, has shots. And Egan gets quite a few shots as well. Now, a lot of them have been off target this year, but for all Sheffield United defenders that aren't Lundstram, he has the most amount of shots so far this season. So he's the one I kind of go for. One of the reasons I've doubled up and not tripled up on the defence is I know how good they've been this year. And I know Aston Villa and Newcastle don't have the most amazing attacks, but they are coming off a break. Are they going to be able to get 1 or 2 clean sheets from those games? Possibly, especially like the Newcastle game. But if they don't, then at this point I actually think it might even be a little bit of a differential to not have a triple up. If the clean sheet goes, at least I've got another Sheffield United player elsewhere, which will be a hard sell for you guys. I know those of you watching are not going to like the third Sheffield United player I've got, but this is the kind of way I'm going. I'm kind of going against the triple clean sheet, almost hoping in a stupid way that they kind of lose a clean sheet or two, even though I've got two. Obviously, it depends how many other managers have double Sheffield United defence. It might still be worthwhile for me to get a clean sheet, and it probably will be, to be fair. But I just don't want to triple. I just think the others, unless Lundstrom does definitely play, they do have some attacking threat, but it's pretty minimal, which is why I've kind of gone for someone like Doherty instead, and a Sheffield United player elsewhere. So that's pretty much my defence. Arsenal goalkeeper by default. I've got that slot for Doherty, either him, Trent, or maybe an Arsenal defender, but it'll probably be Matt Doherty. I want to do something different in this team. Bearing in mind I'm going to go back to my normal team in 31. And then double Sheffield United defence, I feel like it has to be. They've been so good this year, I do want to back them. I'm just not necessarily backing the triple and going for something a little bit different in this team. So adding in midfielders next, and you'll see that first up, I've got Mason Mount, single game week player. I just think in terms of single game week fixtures this week, pretty good ones. Norwich against Southampton, Wolves versus West Ham away, which I've already said, and Chelsea versus Aston Villa away. Aston Villa's defence is just absolutely awful. But basically in that Mason Mount slot, I've got 8.2 million to spend in terms of the team that I've built. I haven't put my bench in this video because I've basically gone for as cheap as possible. So 3.9 million goalkeeper, 3.9 million, two 3.9 million defenders, and a 4.2 million midfielder. They are the cheapest you can get. I would just feel pretty unlucky if my double game weekers don't start at least one game. And I'd be pretty confident in the likes of Trent, Doherty and Mount starting their single game week fixture. So I'm not too worried about the bench. Of course, I've got 8.2 million to spend in that slot. Mason Mount is not 8.2 million. In fact, he's 2 million less than that. So if I do have that money left over, I will upgrade the bench. But as it goes right now, I've just kind of gone as cheap as possible to see how much money I can get into my first 11 that I'm happy with. And I just think Mason Mount against Aston Villa, I think that's a great fixture to target. Abraham could be decent. Pulisic, if he starts, that'd be the only worry for me is whether he's going to start. Whereas I think Mason Mount will. So he's probably the best of the kind of bunch in terms of going to start and can get attacking returns. Loftus-Cheek maybe is a bit of a differential. Seems to be doing okay in the couple of games they've had before Game Week 30 starts. But Mason Mount's in there right now. And one of the reasons I've only got 8.2 million to spend in that slot is Raheem Sterling. Now, the reason I own him, like he's 11.7 million. He eats a lot of the budget. I've got De Bruyne in there. I've got two heavy hitting forwards, which I'll talk about in a minute. That also eats into the budget. But Sterling's in there as well. Now, when I first started making this free hit team, when FPL reopened, I decided that I was going to free hit. I said to myself I was going to attack the game week. Now, I could go for Laporte in defence. Yes, he's got attacking threat. We've seen that before. In fact, he's had some good double game week scores before. They could get one or two clean sheets, and I could really regret not going for Laporte. But I want to attack it, and Sterling was one of the first names I kind of thought about as maybe a little bit of a differential. I don't think everyone's going to go for him just because he's so much money. And let's be honest, he's had an awful season, but from a stats point of view, he's been decent. I don't think he's suddenly become a bad player. And so if anyone's going to kind of come back fresh and maybe do better than they have done in the earlier parts of the season, I think Raheem Sterling could be one of them. And this is just a gut feeling. There's not really any quotes to go on from Pep Guardiola or anything like that. It is just a gut feeling. But De Bruyne feels pretty much nailed. If anyone's going to get 2 starts in midfield, it's him. Then after that, it's difficult. But if I had to put money on someone else from that midfield starting both games, Raheem Sterling would be the one I would put it on. Yes, Mahrez could, Sané, whoever it might be. But I feel like Sterling's probably the next kind of most likely, not definitely guaranteed, but most likely to start 2 games after De Bruyne. If he just starts one and gets minutes in the other, that won't be so bad. And obviously I might regret that because Mahrez could do the same, start one, get minutes in the other. And to be fair to Mahrez, he's 3 million less than Sterling, has scored 3 more points and played like 600-700 fewer minutes. So if he was to, if I thought he was going to start both, Mahrez would definitely be in my team. In fact, from Sterling and Mount, I could have Mahrez and Pepe instead, but the Arsenal midfield, the attackers in general, I just don't know who I'm going for. Right now I've got Leno plus Aubameyang out front. I think that much is going to be obvious. Who's going to be the attackers alongside Aubameyang? I just don't know. There's Lacazette, there's Martinelli, there's Nketiah. Saka can play further forward. Ozil's in there as well. It's just hard to know which one to go for, which is why I've got Mount. And I just want to go for Sterling. I want to attack it. I think he'll be a bit of a differential. And big if he can replicate what he did at the start of the season, getting a hat-trick in one of these games, or even getting close to that, then it could be really nice returns. So I really want him. He was one of the first names I thought about, and I don't really want to go against that. in terms of Kevin De Bruyne, you don't need me to wax lyrical about him. You know how good he is. He's been incredible all season. Whether or not he's got penalties or not, I don't know. I kind of started talking about that a bit on Twitter because he did take the last one for Man City in the Champions League, but Aguero wasn't on the pitch, which is a bit frustrating. Pep Guardiola had kind of talked about penalties, so he obviously wasn't completely happy with them, but Aguero's record is not that bad. It hasn't been that bad recently either, so whether or not De Bruyne will keep them, I don't know. But he has to be on the team regardless of penalties. Like, he's already got an incredible amount of returns this year, and I just think that will continue going. And there's something in the back of my mind that makes me feel like these games are going to feel like training games. And if any team is going to be incredible in training, I feel like Man City are the ones. So who knows what they can do, and it's why I want to go for kind of all-out attack with them. So De Bruyne are in, and then Grealish has to be there. He's the talisman for Villa. There's no one else I'd rather have in my team from Villa than him. 6.4 million, I've already said it. No player has scored more points in midfield for that price. People are talking about McGinn and El Ghazi, and it could be good options, but I'd have them alongside Grealish, not instead of. I could put them in that Mason Mount slot, for example, and I might do that. But ultimately, Grealish is the one, creating lots of chances, gets goals too, and he's going to be the one to drive them forward and hopefully, for Villa fans' sake, get them out of this relegation battle. So that is my midfield. I'm really happy with Sterling. Like I said, I could go Mahrez, but I feel like Mahrez, I'm definitely betting on one game plus a few minutes in the other. With Sterling, I'm gambling that he might get 2 starts. And lastly, adding in strikers. This is where my Sheffield United player comes in. I'm not sure, unless you watched the stream, I'm not sure many people would expect this. So I'll talk about McBurney in a second. In terms of the other players, like Aguero was almost like second player on my Man City list. It's him and De Bruyne +1 for me. Sterling's got that spot as I've just talked about. But I just think Aguero, again, a chance of starting both games. Like, I've looked at how many games he started this year, and his minutes are very similar to Jesus's, to be fair. He has missed some games through injury, and he has kind of just been rested in other games, but not that often. So I still think, yes, Jesus is probably going to be the longer-term striker, or they may buy someone else in the future to replace Aguero. But right now, for me, he's still their number one striker. And again, is there a chance he plays both games, or at least starts both games? I think there is a chance. And if not, he should get minutes in one plus a start in the other one, whichever it might be. I'm very tempted to captain him because I think, yes, De Bruyne's got a lot of returns. A lot of them will come from assists, which he does get bonus for, but you don't tend to get those like necessary massive explosive scores. And obviously he can get them. He can rack up assists. He can rack up goals. And we've seen him do it against Arsenal earlier in the season. So I'm not discounting that. But I just think, again, I sometimes I wonder how much money I would bet on things. If I had to bet which one of Aguero or De Bruyne, if they both started twice, who could score more points, I feel like it's Aguero. I feel Aguero's ceiling is higher, but his floor is a bit lower as well, whereas De Bruyne is a bit more consistent. So I feel like De Bruyne is like a consistent choice, and Aguero is maybe just a bit more of an explosive choice. But his goal record is incredible. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. For the whole of his Premier League career, it's 0.69 goals per game. So he's not quite scoring, obviously, a goal a game, but it's not that far off. And that's better than the likes of Kane, Thierry Henry, and all sorts of players. So we know, anyway, you know how good Aguero is. Again, a bit like De Bruyne, you don't need to tell me, you don't need me to tell you how good he is. But I just think those fixtures are good. They're both at home. And if he starts twice, he could be great. And I am considering captaining him, but I probably will default to De Bruyne because I just think he's by far the best choice this week. Aubameyang has to be in there. I feel like he's a little bit underappreciated. I see people maybe taking him out of their team to spread more money elsewhere, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But he's very consistent for Arsenal, has been throughout his whole career. I saw some stat yesterday that said, since he joined Arsenal, only Salah has scored more goals than him. He's extremely consistent, whether he's playing centre forward or on the wing. He's about as nailed on as it gets in that Arsenal team as well. I would say he should start both games. I know the time between the games is not that long for Arsenal, but I still think there's a good chance that he starts both games. Like, Arteta's going to want to come back with a bang. And like I said, which other Arsenal player is definitely going to start twice, or very likely is starting twice? I'm not sure there is one. So Aubameyang definitely in for me. I think those two picks are obvious. A lot of people have them. McBurney, though, so I've already spoken about not going for the defence. Now, if you check his underlying stats, and don't get me wrong, I know that stats aren't everything, right? I fully appreciate that. They were very good in the kind of final 6 or 7 games of the season. He didn't quite convert that into points. But if you feel like the stats are going to regress to the mean, at some point, he's going to start putting those chances away as long as they keep getting created for him. So in terms of like big chances, shots in the box for those last 6-7 games, he was right up there with really good quality strikers. He just didn't necessarily finish, which obviously we need to happen. but at some point those shots are going to go in. And not just that, he is playing Aston Villa, which are like one of the worst defences in the league this year. And again, I don't expect that to have changed. It's one of the reasons I'm targeting kind of Mason Mount. And then also, Newcastle's defence is pretty poor. Now, I have spoken on other videos that their defence isn't actually that bad at home, but the home and away thing might not be that much of a big deal anymore, in which case that kind of home fortress type thing that Newcastle have had could diminish. So you could get points in there as well. So I think in terms of shots conceded, the shots in the box conceded, Aston Villa and Newcastle are right up there, and they have been for most of this season. So if anyone's going to do something, I feel like McBurney, maybe Fleck, but mostly McBurney, just because the amount of chances he gets, could be the one. And Sheffield United usually play with 2 strikers. McBurney should be nailed on. It's going to be him plus one other striker. So he's kind of a little bit of a punt. I put him in my differential videos, so it's kind of putting your money where your mouth is territory. I think he's 0.3% owned. So very low differential. And I know that a lot of people are going to triple up on the defence, but maybe going for a striker could be just something a little bit different that pays dividends. Maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But I feel like he's a bit of a punt. I've got my core in there. I've got my goalkeeper. I've got my double Sheffield United defence. I've got De Bruyne, Aguero, Grealish and Aubameyang. They're kind of nailed on. And I've got a few differential options elsewhere, which could... And let's not get this wrong. I need to get up the ranks. Like, my rank is pretty poor. So I've got a few differentials in there. So that is my full team. I think players that are guaranteed to be in there: Aubameyang, Aguero, De Bruyne, probably Sterling, Grealish and Stevens, and then Leno in goal. The only reason Leno wouldn't be in goal is if I go triple Sheffield United defence. I may go Henderson and an Arsenal defender instead, because you still cover the clean sheet, but you do something a little bit different to what everyone else is going to do. But ultimately, I think Chelsea and Wolves against West Ham and Aston Villa are really good fixtures. So that is the team I've got. I don't expect it to change very much. I'm hoping this is what comes through on Wednesday, and I'm hoping I get a huge score. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this team. So that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Let me know below what you think of this team and what your teams are looking like. Give it a like if you've enjoyed it. Much appreciated as always. Subscribe if you're new around here. Plenty more content to come for the rest of the season. Good luck with it. I've got a game week preview coming out tomorrow, so I won't be focusing so much on my team, but instead answering your questions and all the kind of latest topics, any news and stuff we've got, things like that. So make sure to keep an eye out for that tomorrow as well. Otherwise, I will leave it there. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll catch you again soon. Cheers all.